Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, live the life we love. Oh, yesterday I made a little faux pas. I sent out a private video screening instead of public. I'll try to rectify it when I get back to Chicago and have my IT people helping me. But let's forge on. Today's Friday. That's PowerPoint Day. I got something to share with you. And today's little Dharma ditty is called Bondage to Inattention, a phrase I picked up from Nisargadatta Maharaj. So I want to start off with this tarot card from the weight deck, number 16. It's the kind of inverted major arcana of the lovers. And the whole idea is they're chained to the cube of space, but if you look carefully, you can see that the chains around their neck are so big, they're self-forged. They could slip them off anytime they want to. But in order to do that, you got to pay attention. Now, what are you going to pay attention to? Well, here in the yin-yang symbol, we have the idea of the self, the totality of all potential. It's the organ of acceptance par excellence. So if you want to know how to balance the opposites, or the dvandvas as they're called in yoga, then you have to understand how they fit into the whole. And the way yoga suggests you do it is by abhyasa. Here's Van Cliburn, if you remember, the first American who won the Tchaikovsky piano competition in Russia during the Cold War. He must have been really good to do that. Yeah, so that's the idea of long, uninterrupted practice with devotion over time. That's how you begin to understand these things. But, I like this. I noticed Murphy worked himself to death. Hey, when are you going to show that kind of commitment? You have to have vision to sustain your commitment if you're going to turn yoga from a skill to a power in your life. And that means meditation, the quality of attention refined to bring that to bear on your daily life. Everything becomes like an aesthetic tea ceremony. And if you do that, you're not only going to be supported from your own personal direct experience, but the voices of the ancestors and their spirits will start to speak through you, not only giving you access to what was, but giving you a visionary understanding about what will be. Now, we want to use our attention to understand and to a certain extent not fall prey to the wrong kind of use of power. People need power in their life to brace themselves against being dominated by other people. Let's go, sisters. You need power in your life as a social verification to avoid humiliation. If you don't have a car, or you don't have status symbols, you look down upon in terms of your own class as well as your own self-esteem. And then people use power for possessions, even if you become a hoarder like this. Usually the more stuff you have, it's inversely proportional to how destitute your ego feels. But ultimately, the power comes from a good initiatory experience, which has risk and adventure connected to it, exposure and vulnerability. Are you up to the whitewater rapids in your own life? Well, that's going to lead you to uncertainty. No idea where the next thing is about to come from. No matter how much you try to control what's within you or around you, things are out of your control. And if you know where you're going, you're commuting. If you're planning a trip, you're arranging, designing, controlling. But the real truth is a lot of it's just in flow, and you don't know where it's going to go. So the teachings are about finding a detail, a passageway into another world, another way of looking at yourself, another perspective. And then if you do that, you're going to find out what enlightenment is all about. I use the image of the North Star, the pole star. If you're above the equator, millions of navigators through history can attest to its practical and functional effectiveness as using it as a fixed point from which you can triangulate. I'm here, that's there, I want to go there. And then you navigate. But of course, south of the equator, you can't even see it. So it's not absolutely true north. But for our intents and purposes, it's a guiding star. That's what enlightenment is to me. It's an idea that you use it as a fixed point to get from where you are to where you want to go. Now, if you do this, I love the Fab Five. They taught me a lot. You have to learn to depose the tyranny of your own inner aestheticism. Everybody's ego wants everything just so. Like I say, you want a certain food in your refrigerator, certain music to be playing, certain kinds of temperatures in the house. And so if you do that, you'll end up living alone. You have to learn to compromise and not think that just because you have a way that you think everything should be, that everyone else should think it should be that way also. And then you're able to flow and really understand, not my will, but thy will. If it's happening in some way for you to pay attention to. And then it goes even further than just letting go of how you would like it to be. It's embracing what James Hillman calls the inferior function. That's the weak part of your personality, which once you're recognizing it, you find out that this has a lot to do with your inner savior. Just like all divine children throughout mythology are always at risk and they have to be protected. Otherwise, they won't be able to grow into the world savior that they have potential inside themselves. So can we look upon that part, our own rejected, abandoned, orphaned part, and embrace it, take it in, and find ways of nurturing it so it can grow into its fullness and eventually fulfill our own lives and give service to everything else in the world? I hope that you find a mentor, as I have. The mentor creates a field of visibility because they both, you and your mentor, work and worship in the same direction. You're in competition with them, but not competition like a tennis match where you need the person on the other side and you want to defeat them. You're both petitioning the same deity, facing the same direction. And the most important thing is they acknowledge equal fervor in you. They recognize the fire you got in your belly, and that empowers you to go along because you have been seen. That's called darshan in yoga. And the guru kind of gives you that constituent glance of being and makes you feel like, I am real. Take it from there and get her done, son. And then ultimately, if you keep working on yourself, you'll become spiritual Teflon. When you do your work, people throw shit and it doesn't stick. And if you keep on working the positive vibe, then the old part of you that used to be Velcro for negativity and Teflon for positivity, the ugly stuff sticks and the good stuff bounces off. You completely change that around. And when you do your work, you become Velcro for positivity and Teflon for negativity. And the good stuff sticks to you and negativity bounces off like an arrow on a battleship. And then ultimately, when you do this, you have received the eye of blessing. Probably more importantly, especially as you get into your elder years, you give the blessing to the people coming after you. And you recognize them. Tell them how magnificent they are, how much you admire them, see their self-worth, and bring them up in their own esteem. That's what I call the good king or the good queen. And then if you do that, you will be involved with yourself as an independent center of initiative and creativity. And the rulers of the land love to have people doing that because it makes richness, social capital, and trust for everybody. So find your way, my friends. Don't be in bondage to your own inattention.